Up, YouTube? Do your thing. What's up, folks? A little late on the start. Thanks, traffic. Thanks for being such a hero today. Oh man. All right. So we'll do the usual. We'll give a few minutes for folks to get here before I get on topic. Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Get a couple questions in chat real fast. Jerry, one question on your guppy mansion. What are your basic water parameters? I want to eventually pick up a pair from redfish, bluefish when they become available again. Oh, that reminds me. I need to talk to Jason. I'm currently planning a trip out in that general direction, so I will, of course, be stopping his way. I need to see if he's ready for me to bring in fish or if he's like got an order and he's not going to have tank space, all those kind of things. Basic parameters are pretty simple. That tank typically sits anywhere between 74 and 78 degrees. I let it kind of get controlled a little bit by the season naturally, and I heat the room. I don't really heat that tank a whole lot. I have a small heater in there. It's an absolute backup just in case it gets super cold outside during the winter. But typically the room sits anywhere between 76 and 80 degrees, so the water is usually about 74 to 78. pH-wise, it's about 7.2 to 7.4. It fluctuates a little bit throughout the year, but in general, ever so slightly alkaline. The big thing is that my water is typically about 120 to 140 TDS of hardness. So that's a GH of about 4 to 5. That's fairly soft for most guppy tanks. And just in general, the person that I got these fish from had commented when she had them in her very hard well water, they didn't do very well. So she started partial water changing with distilled water, so like nothing in it, right? To thin that out. And she saw them do far better in softer water. So I've kept my water kind of similar. I add crushed coral, I add things like Wonder Shell to help give it some mineral content pretty regularly, but in general, my water is kind of soft compared to a lot of what your usual guppy parameters are. That's the big thing. Other than that, nothing crazy. Like I don't push lots of CO2. I'm not doing anything like too weird or wacky. It's pretty straightforward. Just that they're used to a little bit softer water, and for some people that can be hard with their initial pair. But in general, the first set of babies you have born in your water, from there on out, you're rock solid. Because they'll just adjust to what they're born into, and they'll be good. So if you do have some struggles, just keep that in mind. They're guppies, they make babies pretty fast, and mine are, thankfully that line is very, very prolific. They make lots of babies, and they're not very predatory at all. They're very, very friendly little fish, so it's really easy. Most people I've had that have gotten them, very rarely have I had problems where people have struggled continuously. I have had a couple people give me feedback like, hey, I got some of your fish, and unfortunately they didn't make it, or whatever, but they just waited. It's a little bit of extra advice. The biggest thing is I think most people try to go with what the standard is for guppies, and they might over buffer their tanks, like lots of crushed coral, get it really, really hard or something like that. And those fish just generally are used to a little bit softer water. That'd be my biggest tip. Don't go super soft. Not like you're trying to go acidic in your water, but just not super heavy on the mineral content. They should be able to handle it though, but just go easy. Start easy, and then you can kind of dial it in if you have to cut your water back, like if you live in the Midwest where you're on good well water, something like that, right? One more question and we'll get into topic. Leo209, Pseudomygo Gertrudae, are they safe in low pH water? It depends on what you mean by low. Anything from 6.5 to 7.5, they should be pretty fine. That's in general kind of neutral water in the grand scheme of things. One is slightly softer, slightly more acidic, one is slightly more alkaline, but really that's a pretty general range of relatively neutral in the grand scheme of things. So I think anywhere in there you're going to be fine. Talking about Alex's thumbnail. Oh, Lord. Okay, let's see here. Let me get caught up. All right, so we'll do more questions and answers in a few minutes. I want to talk about a few things. Okay, so first off, I'll get into last week's stream And Dr. Novak put out a video yesterday. We'll talk about that really briefly. So last week, just for those who weren't here, but for those who were, a little refresher, we talked about aerobic filtration and why it's so good, and I put that in quotation marks the whole time I was doing it, compared to the more complex systems like anaerobic and anoxic. And basically, like, to sum up, the thing is, aerobic is very easy, very flexible, very easy to get online and get your colony of beneficial bacteria established quickly. And that makes it very easy to do for most hobbyists. Also, because we're always trying to oxygenate our water, or we're trying to do all sorts of different things like, power filters and all those kind of things, it's very easy to set up that system. It doesn't take a lot of work. Anoxic and aerobic are more complicated in the setup process. So there's specific things you need to do in order to set them up correctly and establish those environments. Now, let me get into Dr. Novak's video. And I think it's just a matter of a minor misunderstanding, but he put out a video yesterday, like roughly, I'll do a rough synopsis. I'm certainly not trying to cause some dumb drama here, because I think that's, people are worried about things that I'm not. I'll put it that way. Like, I watched his video, I left a comment, and it was very simple. I just wanted to make sure that certain things were clear, because he received an email from one of his viewers, and that email misconstrued, I think, what my argument or point or whatever you want to call it was, saying that I had stated anoxic filtration requires plants and requires a low bioload. So the correction to that, and I left a comment, because unfortunately, Dr. Novak did not watch my stream. He just went purely off of that email and then made a video. And part of the video, and this is why some people contact me, and to all those people, like, I got several emails, a lot of different DMs. So thank you. You guys are very passionate, and I really appreciate you all. One of the things he said is that it was spreading misinformation. Okay. So my biggest thing there is I went there to clarify, because he didn't watch my video. So he's going purely off of someone's email who misconstrued my argument. So basically, I just left a comment clarifying, and he put a fairly long comment after mine as a response. I read through part of it this morning before I had to run out the door to work. But I think all that's quashed at this point. I don't think there's necessary, but I just wanted to clarify. So for those who might be concerned, the synopsis of my my statement on anoxic filtration is this. From what I have seen thus far, almost every setup that I have been shown as an example includes fairly low stocking, fairly high plant density with an anoxic system. So we're using things in parallel. We're not doing a purely anoxic system, nothing else, with a very high bioload. So until I have data or a very good example that's been running for a long time that I can witness in person and get to ask some questions about it, understand things, I can't say, as a person who literally tests for a living, right? My job is to test things for a living. So I care a lot about data and about method. So I can't say that, well, this guy told me a story once about this tank that I've never seen and he doesn't have any records of it, that this works. Right? And I can't stand behind that. That has no scientific merit, if that makes sense. And this just comes from how I act as a professional in my industry. Now, what I can say is that the premise and the science on it is very interesting. And I'm interested. I'll be doing some experiments in the future when I have space to do so, where I can set up a control versus this versus that, and give more raw data to understand what exactly is happening. Now, I did spend some time today during my lunch. Yes, I used my free time, because I was curious, to try and hunt down a system that had 0 plants, using an anoxic filter, and using no other filtration, so no aerobic filtration. And the short answer to that is I couldn't find one easily. I found a guy who had a really great Mabuna tank. I think it was on like Fish Lore, if I remember correctly. And there's no plants in it, but it's also using a heavy amount of aerobic filtration. So I can't prove that it's purely the anoxic system doing all the work, right? And that's where some of my I haven't seen data and or setups like that. I'm not trying to say that it can't happen. I want to be really clear here. I'm just saying that I can't say definitively that that's how it functions because I've never seen the data or witnessed it in action to go, yeah, it works. And I won't operate off of hearsay. That's just not how I operate. You guys have seen me. You could tell me that this is the greatest filter known to man. I'm still going to wire that thing up and I'm going to rigorously test it because that's how I operate, right? No animosity intended, nothing like that. It's not that I think like there's no way this can possibly function or that's the only way it works. I think there's just some misconstruence that's occurring and not understanding what my intended point was. That's all. I think people have blown a few things out of proportion and whatever. I'm not worried about that. Yeah. Anyway. So that's that. That's all I'm going to do on that one. But like Dr. Novak's been doing tons of stuff. I've watched a lot of his videos. I think the system is very interesting. It's stuff that I want to go play with and test in the future. But, it's so tough to build a pure anoxic system. Because, I mean, even as Chubby Guppy is saying here, they're always going to coexist. You kind of can't create a pure system. There is a way to create like something that's a lion's share anoxic. There has to be a function, but you have to have controls that show you the differences in these things, right? And that's where it becomes a little tough. But it's doable. So anyway, we'll get off that, and that'll be stuff that I'll do in the future. We'll show systems and explain why and how we test this to see to accurately measure where the distances occur. And you know what, Evan, you can have that opinion, and I'm not gonna say that you're wrong or right, but I think that the biggest qualm that I personally have is when we're going to talk about something that we don't just go and get some clarification. Because like if somebody emails me and says, "Hey, that guy Bentley, he's talking some about you." So the first thing I'm going to do is go back and look at whatever that source is. Or I'm going to contact that person directly and go like, "Hey, I've been hearing this. Let's talk for a second." Because I just want to understand the source and not operate purely off of hearsay. I hope that makes sense. I think that's the only part where I kind of have a small qualm, but whatever. It's fish. We all want to keep fish. We all use different methods that we're most comfortable with. We have the best experience with. We have the best results with. That's how it is. It's just a thing like that. Anyway, so I also noted in the title I have some good news. So let's talk about that very briefly, and then we'll get into the rest of the question and answer side. Chat, thank you for being pretty positive in general. I really appreciate you guys. Let's not get into the negatives, okay? Just because I don't like slinging mud, if that makes sense. Bob Purcell, just use bleach; it'll kill the bacteria. Oh, oh Lord. Anyway, the good news, and some of this it's kind of bittersweet, actually, but it's good overall. This week and next week are my last 2 weeks at my current job. So my schedule will be changing. I'm certainly not becoming a full-time YouTuber. The way I operate my YouTube channel certainly does not have the income to make that ever possible. And I didn't win a lottery anytime recently, so I can't make that happen. But I have been very, very fortunate. A lot of what kept me busy and why I missed some videos and live streams, or a live stream and some videos, is I've spent basically the better part of the last month working my butt off, frankly, to prep for interviews for a new job. And this is like literally the hardest series of interviews I've ever gone through in my life. And part of that has resulted in something very nice. I have been offered a position full-time to work for Amazon. So for those of you who know Amazon, I will actually be an actual employee of Amazon here very soon. Working back in the game side of life. I'll actually be doing test work in Amazon games. So not specifically on games themselves, but as a part of the whole org that is Amazon Games, that's where I'm going to be headed. So why is this good news? My position is 100% remote. I will be working from home. So that means I will not be losing 2+ hours a day just driving in traffic. So what does that mean? I have a good opportunity, not only from a career, because this is no longer contract, right? My career typically is working in contract. I'm actually a full-time employee, not a contractor anymore. And, you know, that has many, many benefits. But the biggest thing being that I will have some extra lifetime. I will have extra home life balance. And yeah, I mean, you got to think about that, right? That's 10 hours a week plus that I'm not in traffic, which means that I can begin catching back up on a lot of things that I want to do. Does this mean New World is going to get better now? Well, I hope that New World gets better because I know that there are a lot of very passionate people working on it, but I'm not going to be working on that. So there's certain things that'll change. There's certain things that I can and can't talk about eventually. Once I'm in my role and understand like what they have me doing and all that kind of stuff, I'll say what I can say for those who care. But basically, I will get more time, which hopefully means that I can progress on a few things around the house and in the fish world and the YouTube world, and not have my life consumed entirely by work. So hopefully we'll get to see some cooler stuff. I'll get to do better filming, which means that I can, in general, produce hopefully better quality content. Have a little bit more time with my lady, too. You know, I would like a few of those things. But in general, hopefully in the relatively near future, there's going to be some adjustment time and stuff like that. But once I get that feel for what my new life is like, I will hopefully be able to do better fish-oriented content and all those kind of things. But from everything that I've been told by my boss, he's very strict about people having a good work-life balance. So I hopefully will be returning to a slightly better, not working my brains out constantly and be more like 40 hours a week instead of 55 hours a week, right? So there's a lot of things there that I'm extremely excited about. I've spent the last just over 2 years working on the project I'm working on for Microsoft. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we've done. I have seen many, many milestones in a first-of-its-kind technology. I've literally been a part of making something real. And that's the bittersweet part, right? Is because I have an immense passion for the work I do. It's why I work as much as I do. It's why I do these things, because I love what I do. I love the people I work with. It's going to be sad not to be regularly seeing them, although I've forged many friendships that will persist well outside of my work. and I will still regularly see some of those people. But getting to work from home is a big thing. And more importantly, getting out of contract, which can be kind of scary, you know, I might actually be able to do a few more things. So that's the primary good news. The other good news is we will most certainly have some really amazing merch at the Triple Crown, because I'm working on it right now. It's going to be sweet. Sweet. One of a kind, only doing it once. So, for those who are going to be there, hunt me down. Trust me. Hunt me down. All right. Let us do questions and answers as much as I can. You know, you don't ask me about my new job because I barely know anything yet. Or my old job because there's so much I can't talk about. But, yeah. Kingfishers Catch. Will you still be under a no-talk contract, aka an NDA, and drop all the deets on your old work? No, I'll be under a very strict NDA for my old work for probably at least another 5 years, to be honest. Maybe longer. That's just a matter of what my job entails. Yeah. But, you know, there's general stuff that I can talk about, like that overall field of technology that is very, very interesting, very cool, and is going to advance quickly because of the number of people that are starting to enter that field. Okay, let me see here. Let me get to some questions. There were some great questions in chat as I was babbling. So, from Dusk, for example, is putting in some, there's data and research supporting the theory that Dr. Novak cites. It's buried in scientific journals, articles. Yeah, I think the problem is, there's not a lot of like good stuff that specifically is pointed at Anoxic. Usually it's portions of some other larger study includes Anoxic information. And in my previous like field of work, right, I just did not have the time to dig that deep. I'm too freaking busy to dig through like giant scientific journals about this kind of stuff. So that's why I rely on direct experience, and often like I'll ask people for data, and if you can't give me some relevant data, I can't in good conscience say anything one way or the other. Because you also notice like I don't say there's no way this can ever work, right? It's more like I don't have the experience, and in my experience, this is what I've seen be the ones that function the best. So it's one of those things. It's and people can interpret that as like he's saying that this can't happen because he's only seen these, and that's not true. Okay, sure, that can be how you perceive what I'm trying to say, but saying that it's like, you know, not asking for clarification is kind of where I'm a little like, come on, man. It doesn't take long. You know how to reach out to me. We've talked back and forth in emails in the past. And you're probably knowing something recent. I'll probably put some level of high priority on it. Bob Purcell, Danger Noodle says hit the like button. Yeah. Oh, man. I will say this. The merch being created is not Danger Noodle related. But I might in the future do something that is specifically Danger Noodle related. And it'll be just like the first batch. So all this stuff at the Triple Crown is going to be free. I will give it away. I will spend my money to say thank you. Because I'm a crazy person. Kiro P, Duke of DIY. I don't know if he's the king anymore. He doesn't do much DIY anymore. A joke. A kid. Uses Anoxic on his saltwater tank. But, okay, so it's been a while since I looked at that. I remember at one point watching those. They're kind of older videos. Didn't he also have a skimmer? Because skimmers are a type of filtration. They're removing toxic chemicals using very, very microfine oxygenation. And they're best effective in saltwater because of saltwater's density. That's what makes a skimmer effective there, and why you don't see very many skimmers in freshwater. This is where like it's tough, right? It's hard to find systems that are like perfectly examples of anoxic that don't have usually some high level of aerobic bacteria working in conjunction with them. That's the tough part. And the bigger thing is you can have that system, but having data where you show a control side by side. And let me explain what I mean by control. Let's say that we're using a plenum, right, versus a BCB, because these are two different ways of doing anoxic systems, versus a tank and you have each of them have some level of water movement. Usually we're going to do something like a single air stone, very low flow, right, to try and move a little bit of water around. Maybe you'll have a low power head or something. You would do the same thing in a control system, but you would purposely prevent yourself from having the kitty litter and the laterite that creates an anoxic environment, and just have your gravel, if you're going to use a gravel, with just aerobic, so that the only thing you're creating in that same environment is aerobic bacteria. And then you will use concentrations of ammonia. You can use this through like ammonia chloride or similar powdered forms out there. Like Fritz has an ammonia powder basically that you can use as a concentrated thing. So you can do a perfect measure, creating a certain ppm of ammonia within your water system. And then by testing it, you can look at each tank and see how fast or how much of a concentration of ammonia it handles in a day, and then look at the data over a period of time, right, and determine, well, okay, the tank that is our control that only has oxygenation and basic gravel was able to handle 3 parts per million of ammonia per day, but the biocenosis basket tank was able to handle 4 parts per million a day, and the plenum system was able to handle this much per day. Right? This is how you do a controlled experiment to prove the efficacy of the anoxic system in these environments. That's a real basic, simple system. The other way that you could do it would be like a biocenosis basket, completely bare tank. What's the difference? How much ammonia can those tanks handle given those differences? But every other part of the parameter is exactly the same. Same size tank, same gallonage of water. So this is where it gets a little interesting, because you actually would need to figure out how to do 16 gallons of water with and without the basket. So you have the same gallonage of water to get the exact same part per million of ammonia when you're testing. You need relatively accurate testing tools. So that's where you would do like a more in-depth experiment and give yourself data sets so that you can look and compare and actually see what measurable difference occurs. And that's the kind of information I want, because that'll show me just plain up in the numbers. Numbers don't lie. Math doesn't lie to you. What's going on? That's what I'll do eventually. I just got to get space for it. So my perpetual problem that I'm trying to fix. Jacob Hill, have you ever used Tropica Substrate? Nope. I'll just cut that off really fast. What I have used thus far, I tried dirt once, went miserably wrong. I'll eventually do it again now that I'm smarter about it. I've used sand, I've used gravel, I've used Fluval Stratum, ADA Amazonia 1, not 2, Brightwell's Rio Oscuro, UNS Contrasoil, Echo Complete, both the black and the red, Fluorite Red. There's one other one I've used. I'm trying to remember. It's another clay aqua soil, and my brain is just out the window right now. Did the UNS, did the ADA, There's one I'm missing, and I can't remember off the top of my head what. But those are all the soils I've in general done. But yeah, I haven't done any of Tropica. I don't really have any places locally that sell Tropica, so I'd have to find it, source it online, and ship it, and then that usually becomes more expensive. And most of the thing is, like, most of your aqua soils all perform relatively the same, so it's kind of hard to justify doing massive experiments of comparing substrate to substrate unless they're easily acquirable, if that makes sense. Oh, I guess I've done like the full ADA system with power sand as well. There's something else I'm forgetting that is like an aqua soil as opposed to a variation, because I've tried like the black diamond blasting sand. I've tried the sand mix that Corey likes to use, which off the top of my head I can't remember what it's called because you can get it at like rock yards. But I've tried that stuff. I've had aragonite sand in a tank before when I was doing my shellies. You know, I've done quite a few things, but you know, there's where there's a will, there's 800 ways, right? It's one of those things. WTF, Lala or 1A1A. I'm not sure which of the two you prefer the pronunciation for, but why not do a live stream with Dr. Novak and talk about the data? Sure. That's something I've considered. The biggest thing recently has been mostly just my schedule and time. As my schedule changes, that's probably a lot easier. Like, I've talked back and forth with him several times about stuff when I was asking him questions, trying to understand the system when I did Filtration 101. And, you know, in general, like, I have some positive understanding. It's just a matter of having the experience, and I can talk about the data all day long, but if you don't provide the raw data set and how it was measured and all that kind of stuff, I can't assume it's correct. Does that make sense? I could tell you, okay, I have all this data that says that Bentley is the greatest plant grower of all time. I have all the data. And then you would go, okay, Bentley, give me the data. But I go, no, I told you I have all the data. It's right here. Why would you refute that? Do you see where there's a difference? I'm not saying that he's like, I won't give you data. But more just one of those things where I could talk about data all night long, but until you provide me the full data set so I can analyze it myself, because it's very easy, this has happened in studies all the time, is data gets manipulated to prove the point it wants to prove. And you have to come at data with a sense of non-bias and just look at the full data set and go, what does this data tell me? But it depends on how the experiment is performed too, because if the control is not accurate, you can spin the data however you want. And that's where it's tough. It's very tough. It's a tough game. But yeah. It's tough. I don't want to, like, how to put this? I really don't want this to be a drama thing. It's just one of those things where I think his video, a lot of people were concerned because he's directly calling my name out. I think it's just a matter of, like, hey, you got information from a person, it's not 100% accurate. I left a comment to try and clarify some things, and honestly, I think it's all quashed and good now. If it's not, I'll find out in the near future, I'm sure, and then we'll see what happens, I suppose, but hopefully, like, he understands. Like, I'm not doing anything with animosity or intent like that. Like, it's just, this is why I say these things. It's me just trying to explain, I suppose. Chance, gonna have to move your stream to Twitch now that you work for Amazon. No, I like Twitch. I wouldn't say that streams like this even work on Twitch. Although there's some interesting stuff in Amazon's contracts for work, which is are kind of amusing, but yeah. Kelly Foreman, I will never leave contract life. No company will ever own me again. You know, I'll put it this way. I work in a will to work state, so no one can ever own me. The only difference is by working in a full-time position in a non-contract, I just have better benefits, is really what it comes down to. I get paid better in the grand scheme of things because it's more than just a salary, right? And I get to work from home on something I haven't ever done before, and that's interesting to me. Like, I love stepping into something that, while I have the technical skill set to handle it, I just haven't actually been hands-on with it before because it makes it new and exciting and interesting. And there's some other perks there, but that doesn't matter to fish life. The perks are basically like, because it's a full-time role, there's like real career growth, where in contract there's kind of a ceiling in every contract you step into, and you just can only progress so far, where in a place where they have a clear and obvious path of how you can grow your career based on what you're interested in and what you gravitate toward, there's just more opportunity in the grand scheme of things long term. You know, it's nice. The big thing is the work-life balance. That's basically the biggest selling point for me. I am really looking forward to not being in traffic constantly. Jared, my company said they wanted to address employee work-life balance. 2 years later, the first page of the annual employee handbook said that we realize we have too much life and not enough work. Oh, boy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can look at studies. There's all sorts of interesting stuff out there in regards to the fact that humans just aren't designed to work as much as we do nowadays. Leo209, 15 flex with Brightwell substrate, good nano fish, or tank mate for a Hellboy beta, plus pygmy cories. I mean, weren't you looking at putting in cherry barbs, or... I mean, I would look at like cherry barbs or white clouds. They're both good little schooler fish. They're very, very peaceful. The big thing is just looking at very peaceful fish in general. K9 talking about the infield soil for baseball fields. So you're talking about like turfus. I personally haven't used turfus. I've got friends that have. If I'm going to go that route, I'll use safety zorbs specifically, which I have some experiments and stuff with safety zorb that I plan to do in the future too, because it's super cheap, and if you do it right, it's pretty amazing. Fishy Mailman, maybe the samurai one. That's what it is. That stupid samurai soil. I had some of that in a... I think I got it at a club auction, if I remember right, and I had it in a shrimp tank for a while. And basically it was like, it's the same as Amazonia. Or Fluval stratum. It's closer to Fluval stratum. It doesn't leach as much ammonia, but... Yeah. Yeah. Jay Friends. I will say I have a 65-gallon tank with 5 discus and 15 tetras. My filtration is an Eheim 600 with a BCB basket, and all my fish are super healthy, and discus have grown large. Great! I'm glad that works for you. My question to you would be this. Do you have plants in that tank? Do you have lots of surface area, whether it's hardscape or something like that, that is also giving you aerobic filtration in some level of mass? And have you tried measuring the difference between building a non-BCB system versus that? That's where this is just digging into the science like a total nerd about it. What matters is for all people, and I've had lots of people talk to me since that first Filtration 101, sharing their experience where they've had great success with various, whether it's the BCB or the plenum, when it comes to Anoxic. And my statement to that immediately is, thank you so much for sharing your experience, because it lets me know the people who've had success. And I care about that. I really do, because the more information I have is great. But when it comes to like trying to prove something scientifically, like giving people data so that they can draw their own conclusions, that's just where data matters as opposed to stories. Because like there's going to be a million stories of people having success, and you're going to have that one person who goes like, I've tried, and this was a comment I've had, I've tried to do Anoxic several times, and every time it has crashed and failed. And I don't have the information to ask the questions to go, okay, did you XYZ to try and help figure out why they had trouble and get them on the right track? That's where I need to be able to do my own experimentation. I hope that makes sense. And you know, there's people out there that have a lot of that experience, and they're going to try and help, because in the end, all we want is for all of us to have healthy fish, to enjoy the tanks that we love and the fish that we love. Or in case like weirdos like me, the plants that I love, right? That's what we're looking at. Ron, is there any possibility that Bentley hasn't used stratum? No, I've used stratum. I love Fluval stratum. That stuff's great. It's one of the easiest acquirable like aqua soils that by volume is actually fairly cheap in the grand scheme of things. Now, certainly not as cheap as getting dirt, but still pretty good deal. Still pretty good deal. Let's see here. We got some other side conversations going on. Bentley, how does Echo Complete work? I've heard it has no nutrients. Is this true? So, unlike your clay or ash-based substrates, it's basically a volcanic-based substrate. And it doesn't inherently have nutrients in it like a lot of the other aquasoils do. The difference between Echo Complete and your aquasoils is that just it doesn't start with a high concentration of nutrients. It's not a nutrient-rich soil. It does, however, have a high cation exchange capacity, which means that it is going to absorb nutrients out of the water column and make them available at the roots for your plants. So typically, what I like to do is I mix Echo Complete with an aquasoil. I'm lowering the overall initial nutrient density in my soil, but I'm keeping two different types of things, because what I've seen is that roots grab on to Echo Complete really well because of just how kind of porous that volcanic substrate is. This can be really good for several plants establishing their root systems, but it still has that good cation exchange capacity. So what it's doing is it's some of those excess nutrients that can leach out of your initial planting and starting of an aquasoil tank. It can absorb a little bit of that as your plants establish themselves. It makes it very easy to get that tank going and get past that initial ammonia spike that tends to be present in a majority of our aquasoils. It basically lessens the time that you're dealing with that and the number of water changes you need before you start getting to the other parts of the nitrogen cycle. Hope that makes sense. That's part of the reason why I do that from a semi-science-y perspective. Let me see here. Looking for our next question. Again, at Bentley Pasco makes it super easy for me to see your questions. Kelly Foreman, I get paid way more to be a corporate contractor. The thing is, on the West Coast in general, or at least in the Seattle area, the contract game can be really rough because most of the big companies that do the hiring, they only hire through the big contract firms. You can't do as an individual contractor. I would make significantly more as an individual contractor if I could do so, but it's really hard to get into a lot of those companies as an individual contractor, aka like a consultant, right? Consultants are where you make the big money. But then those people are always looking for their slice of the pie. So they're taking their chunk, and the only difference is I cut that chunk out and I give it to myself by working direct for the corporation. Or at least that's what I'm telling myself. Regardless, I'm excited for things. I'm excited. I've worked very hard to try and get a full-time job somewhere, so yeah. You're a consultant, see? You're cheating. You're cheating to win, and I appreciate that. If you ever need an extra consultant, you let me know. Would Echo Complete work with root tabs? Absolutely. Absolutely it does. Leo 2 and on aquatics. How long does it take Brightwell planted substrate to keep the pH around 6.5? Also ordered another 5 pounds, so 10 should be enough for the flex. So, here's my general advice. You gotta try less hard to fight your pH. Fish will adapt. But if you're trying to target an exact pH all the time, it's tough. It's very, very tough. How long does it take? It depends 100% on your initial water. If your initial water is like pH 7.8 and has a super high mineral content, you're going to blow the buffering capability out of that substrate pretty fast, and it's not going to be able to buffer it down enough. And enough is in quotation marks. So the problem is, like, I can't give you an exact answer because there's so many variables at play. And that makes it tough. Like, I'm certainly not like an aqua soil mega genius or something and can't just go, well, tell me those few things and I'll tell you an exact answer. It's just too tough to know. But in general, you're going to have some level of buffering downward. That's going to help you. And it's going to last usually 2 to 3 years. As long as your water is not excessively mineral rich. Does that make sense? Rico, good to see you back, chat, buddy. Geek boy, pants, why bother? Yeah, I'll probably spend a lot of my time in shorts. I'm that guy in the office who, like, I always wear button-up shirts, but this is just how I dress anyway, and khakis. And I dress like that way all the time, unless I'm being lazy. Then I'll wear shorts. And around the house, I'm going to be lazy and wear shorts. But I'll still be in these button-up shirts, because that's what I like to wear. That's what I'm comfortable in. Because I am, like, the most white bread of human beings. I dress in the most white boy way possible. But mostly it's just that's what I'm comfortable in. I've never been a big t-shirt guy. I've never really liked jeans because I'm weird. That's really what it comes down to. I'm weird. I'm real weird. I like my plaid patterns and my khakis. Oh, Lord. Eric, what are your thoughts on glass tops not allowing proper gas exchange? I mean, I guess if you somehow fully seal all four sides, you could have that happen. But even just having like the plastic back or some kind of hole where things are happening, you're going to have enough gas exchange occurring. Especially if you're using some level of aeration, like an air stone or something. Because then you're pushing gas from outside into the tank through the pump, right? So I can't say that in any of my experiences where I have tanks that have glass lids that I can be like, I've had less gas exchange because of that lid. I'm sure there's somebody out there who can like do some in-depth crazy thing and prove it, but I can't say that I've ever experienced anything that would lead me to believe that by having a lid on my tank, I have less gas exchange. Rico Stan, just going to throw this out there. Retirement is even better than working from home. I'm sure it is. But for some of us who are workaholics, we might not be able to retire. We have to have something else or we'll just go crazy. Rock hard tanks. I am currently working from home, but no, I'm going back to the office. Not looking forward to wearing pants of any kind. I specifically, one of the big things for me was... So I was talking to at the time when I was going through my initial interview process, I did my first screening with the guy who is now my boss. And I remember the recruiter I was talking to was like, hey, so this team is fully remote. They all work from home. We have several people that are all over the country. Is that going to be a problem for you? And I was like, well, is there a point in time where they're going to require us to work in the office? She's like, no, you don't understand. This entire team will always be remote. Just period. So even if other teams return to the office, you will remain remote unless you specifically want an office space to work in, and then we can arrange you to have an office space. And I was like, no, that won't be a problem. I'll be happy to work remote from home. It's just why my recruiter was such a sweetheart. She's one of the most wonderful human beings out there. Absolutely, like, helped me a ton in just understanding things and getting my prep work and all that kind of stuff. So I was super excited about that kind of stuff. Eric, I totally didn't think about the air stones. Yeah. I think that's one of the things. I think it's super easy to focus in on little details and lose track of the big picture, right? And I think that's one of the things that often happens in our hobby. And I try very hard to like think of the entire ecosystem I'm building and where I might like not understand certain interactions that occur. So like this also leads back to one of the things that we talked about a while back when you lose power. If it's too cold outside, right? And you're worried about keeping your tank warm. Well, do you turn your aeration off because it's pumping air from outside that is going to be colder than the temperature of the water? So you are in some way slowly chilling your tank's water down faster by running your aeration. This is a conversation I had with Master Breeder Dean, and I had never thought about it like that. And it's one of those big picture things, right? Where you're like, no, I need that aeration. We're like, well, but aren't you slowly making the water colder by pumping all this cold air from outside in when you don't have the heater to bring it back up? It's like, that's a really cool idea. And you're probably right. Just, sometimes we lose track of those things. It's very interesting to... Everybody always has that thing that they think about that someone else doesn't when you're in these situations, and it broadens your perspective on stuff. That's what I love about kind of sciencey hobbies, things like this, where there's tons of stuff to figure out, and everybody has a different experience. It brings some nugget of fantastic information to you. That's why you heat the room. Well, you can't heat the room when the power is out. Silly goose, Alyssa. Been hanging out with Joel too much. Oh, man, I'm going to miss that guy when he moves really far away. I won't be able to go see him. Oh, let's see here. We had some other stuff. One sec. Wow. Talk about retirement. Uh-oh. Paul Solterra, what do you call a guy who likes Mondays? Me? I don't know, man. Positive? Weirdo? I don't know. Bob Purcell. Bentley, if you were to design the Amazon logo using a rainbow fish, which one would you use? I would probably say the Herbert Axelrodi, the yellow rainbow. Right? Because it's that yellow color. It's kind of bright and shiny. Kind of happy. That sunshiny feel. I'd probably start there. They get that big body shape, so you could say the bottom is kind of that smile logo, right? Naidu, how is... I'm going to get a million questions about Amazon now. I haven't even started yet, guys. Come on. Oh, boy. How is Amazon's health insurance? Heard they run their own program instead of using Kaiser or someone else. So my experience is limited, right? I haven't even started yet. But when I was looking at, they have multiple insurance options that you get to choose from. So one of the options is Kaiser. One of the ones is Primera, at least in my perspective. But in general, their benefits are pretty great. When you get to... I'm kind of thankfully in the white collar side of life. I know it's different for folks that work in warehouse and stuff like that, and I certainly can't talk about those things. Johnny, how dare you? But as I understand things and know what I can talk about, if you guys really do have questions, we can do a what's Bentley's new job live stream or something at some point, and or maybe I'll do a short video of question and answers or something like that, right? But I haven't even stepped into it yet. I don't start until May. Easy. Well, that's not true. When do I start? Hold on. Is that May? I don't want to give away, but basically I'm taking a week off before I start my new job, and I'm going to try and catch up on filming because I'm going to be super busy here soon. I'm going to have several weekends where I won't have time to film, and I want to make sure that I pre-film. It's what it comes down to. Try to get myself back ahead. But yeah. I had several options. I'm still picking certain things, and some of it doesn't happen until I start. So yeah, I don't know. It looked like I had lots of options, and it all seemed pretty great. Oh man. Oh no. Kingfishers Catch is a great question. I got one I want to answer first. Johnny at Dancefish. Can you tell me what's going on with my Amazon order? It was supposed to be there yesterday. It's in the mail. You guys are killing me right now. This is why I love my live stream, is because I get to interact with you. You guys you guys make every day good. It's just what it is. Every live stream is always a fun experience. Oh no. Okay. So Kingfisher's catch. How is breaking the news to your team? So last Wednesday, so I knew late Tuesday night. So basically after my stream is when I found out I was given the job offer. I had a strong inclination that I'd done very, very well in my interview. It was just a matter of, so at Amazon they have levels, right? And it was whether I qualified for the higher role or the lower role. And the difference there is basically just pure pay, right? So that was kind of where I felt. I felt I was in the stage where I was like, did I qualify for that higher role to start, or do I need to work my way to that role from the slightly lower role? And all of which would have been an increase in overall pay and all that kind of stuff, right? So it would have been all positive. Even the employees have to pay for Prime. Hey, man, Prime has a lot of useful things. I've had Prime forever, and I love it. But, you know, you say what you will about it. Anyway, so Wednesday when I knew, I had a one-on-one with my current boss, a gentleman by the name of Kevin, who's a fantastic human being. He's just awesome. And occasionally he even watches some of my stuff. So Kevin, if you're watching, hi. What's up, boss? And I sat down, I told him in person, because I wanted him to know in person before I sent out a letter of resignation or anything like that. He was bummed but excited at the same time. So then afterward, I sent out my letter of resignation to our higher level boss, which is our guy, but a gentleman by the name of Matt. His title is a solutions delivery manager. So basically, he manages all of the contracts under our contract company for this particular org of Microsoft, which is a lot of people. He manages like 90 total people. You know, he's got a tough job. He's got a lot of plates to spin at all times. I sent my letter of resignation to him and CC'd my boss Kevin, and the initial response I got from him was, "Well, damn it." Because, you know, I've been in a leadership role for a couple of years and had been working on some stuff to try and grow our project as a whole in the near future. And I know there are people who will take over for me when I'm gone. And I'm writing a massive document of things that are stuff I was working on and stuff like that. But anyway. So that Friday, so last Friday, I already had a lunch planned with a gentleman who used to work on my team. We go out with him. Every couple of months we have a lunch with him to catch up, because he was one of the people he's the other guy who founded the team with me, and then the rest of our current team, except for the one guy who's in chat right now, because he was not feeling very well, so he stayed home. And I broke the news to them before telling anyone else. So, you know, it was very simple. I just told them, like, hey, listen, I have some news. April 22nd is going to be my last day. So there's 2 weeks from that day. I've accepted a new offer where I'm going to be going from contract to a full-time role over at Amazon, and they were both happy for me but sad, right? Because, like, it means there's going to be a bunch of change for them, because it's new leadership that's going to have to step in. And one of my team members is interested in being a lead. The other team member, who I think is the one that's probably best suited for being a lead, just doesn't want to be a lead, right? Doesn't want that managerial position, because it's just not his thing. So, you know, we kind of have to go outside our team, because the other main member of our team just got a kind of new role where they work partially on our team and partially off our team. So there's already some stuff that was going to be happening anyway. So basically it's like I have to work on, with my bosses, figuring out some recommendations and stuff like that when it comes to who will take over for me and how all those things happen. But in general, Most people have been very positive about it, been giving me a lot of congratulations, which has been very, very sweet. But in general, it's also been bittersweet because, like, I've made a lot of people who are more than just the people I work with. These are people that I care about. They're my friends, or just people that I respect. The guy who is the boss from Microsoft's side, right, a full-timer at Microsoft, a gentleman by the name of Greg, if he happens to ever watch. When we had a conversation yesterday for like an hour and a half, going over some things as far as future is concerned, reminiscing about the past, and it's an extremely bittersweet feeling because I really do love the project I'm on, and despite the amount of work I do, I still love it. I care immensely about the product we work on. And now I'm going to be in a position where I can't directly influence it anymore. So I'm going to have to watch from afar and just hope that everything turns out as well as I know it can. For some of you who've, maybe you've seen my Facebook, I put out a post when I hit my 2-year anniversary. And, I was incredibly proud of what those people have done. So now it'll be very interesting stepping in as the new guy on a relatively established but in the process of growing org, and kind of putting my stamp on things a lot like I did at Microsoft. We had this established test team that was branching out and building new things, and I got to put my stamp on something, building it, at least what my team does now, from kind of the ground up. And I'm doing something similar in that sense now at Amazon. And that's the exciting part for me. The turning a concept to reality is something that I love the most about my job and about what my work has been over the last almost 20 years now. Yeah, just the number of things that I've done in both in the tech field and other ones, right, is turning an idea into reality is something that I love. I love being a part of that process and driving that process. And it's one of those experiences where until you've experienced that before, you can't understand how fulfilling that is. But when you get to do it for that first time, dude, it changes your perspective so much on the things that your goals going forward in life and what you want to do with your career. Because once you've done that once, it's almost like a drug. You get hooked on that feeling of like, here I am in this part, and it's this disjointed, crazy concept, and there's got to be a way to make this real. And then when you finally walk through all the trials and tribulations, the successes, the failures, and you finally get to that thing being real, it feels so incredible. Paul, so do Bentley Pasco memberships now include substantial discounts at Amazon? No. You guys are the best. Like, I really do appreciate a lot of you. Rock hard tanks. Can you fix Amazon Web Services VPN protocols? I'm not on that team, man. Sorry. You guys killed me, man. You guys are the best. Anyway. Sounds like a way to break Amazon. Isn't that your favorite thing? I do love breaking stuff. It's very fun. You break it in a constructive way, though. Mark, to answer your question, I missed the beginning. Did he say how he found the job? And then, out of curiosity, what would it take for you to do a live stream with Novak? It's just a matter of trying to schedule stuff. I'll answer that one shortly. It's just scheduling stuff, which is going to take a little bit because I need to figure out my new work schedule and all those kind of things, right? But yeah. Once I understand, like, my new work schedule, my old work schedule, I'm going to be crazy busy for the next basically 2 weeks. getting everything set to make sure that my current work is ready to transition from when I'm no longer there. Because I still care about that place a lot. I tried to give them as much time as possible when it came to my notice, which I gave them effectively 2.5 weeks notice. My new bosses were like, we want you to start basically now, but we understand that you can't do that. So how much time do you need? And then I was like, will you please give me this much time? And they said, okay. Wayne Talbot. I have no clue. I've never asked about that. It's not something I necessarily care about right now. But anyway, so what would it take to curiosity? Basically, once I understand my new schedule, it's just a matter of scheduling it and timing it out. It'd probably have to be a weekend thing. It's just a matter of making sure that there's both timing that works for him and timing that works for me, right? Easy peasy. I'm happy to talk with him. Like, I've talked with him in the past. I think, like, part of what he's talking about is educational and interesting. I just personally don't have direct experience yet with it, so that I can't say, I know this definitively how it works because this is my experience. I hope that makes sense. It's not like I'm trying to say, like, no, it doesn't work. How dare you? It's not that at all. But anyway, now let me answer Mark's question. And I'm going to answer this in a strange philosophical way. How did I find the job? The job. Sorry, I'm being weird. So I was taught a lesson a long time ago in college by a marketing professor that is probably one of my 3 favorite teachers I've ever had. A gentleman by the name of Dan Singer. Your next best job is sitting right beside you. Let me explain what that means, because it sounds crazy, but it's genius. What it means is networking with the people you work with, caring about them, being good to them, will help you find new employment. So in my case, a gentleman that I've previously worked with, the guy who I went to the wedding with, right? The guy who he was getting married, and that's the reason why I was in Las Vegas. He used to work for Amazon. I had seen some open roles at Amazon that I thought I stood a very good chance of getting. And I had talked to a different friend who I've worked with in the past who said, hey, it's not on my team, but under my larger team, right? Not on his direct team, but on teams beside his, they're hiring for some roles. Do you want me to give you some details and maybe you might be able to fit one of these roles? Because I think you'd be really great on this project as a whole. So I had a long conversation with this friend of mine. And then when I went to that wedding, several of his former coworkers who were also at the wedding had all worked for or currently worked at Amazon. So I asked them lots of questions to the extent of what they were willing to tell me. And that basically told me whether or not I wanted to pursue it. But it's 2 friends who first one said, hey, there's this open role you might be interested in. And it's 100% because of how we work together. His understanding of how I work, our various conversations where I would ask him questions about what help I could give him, if there was any advice I could loan him to help make his work life easier or help arm him with knowledge that would make things for our team as a whole better. Those are the things that I care about. And it all stems back to a lesson that I had in college. Like, care about the people around you. When you work with people, especially in the tech industry, for those of you who might be interested in getting into tech, for you younger folks, I will say this about tech. If you have an aptitude for learning, you can learn anything in tech. And who you know matters way more than what you know. Because if somebody's already in a company, they fit that company's culture usually. And if they're valued where they're at, their opinion of you as a referral matters way more than what your resume says. Your resume could say, I am terrible at XYZ because I've never done it, but I'm really good at this one thing. And I'm really experienced with this one thing. But that person can go, hey, listen, I know he doesn't have a lot of experience on his resume that says he's good at this or that she's good at this, but I know this person. They learn super fast. They work really hard. More importantly, they're really great at these things that we value. They will be great here. I think you should give them a shot and talk to them and interview them. That matters so much more than what your resume says on paper. Your next best job is sitting right beside you. The people you work with matter almost infinitely more than the work you're doing. Now, you still need to work hard. You still need to have a good work ethic and be able to show through your past successes where you can have success in the future, right? Like, I can go through all sorts of examples of trials and tribulations I've dealt with at work, or things that I've pushed where normal people might just give up on it and go, it can't be that important because they seem to think it's not important. But someone like me will advocate very heavily, because my job is to advocate for the customer as a tester, right? My job is to advocate for the best possible user experience. And when I see something that I think is a problem, but somebody else writes off, I have to push my feet in the ground and stand my ground and explain why I'm championing this so hard, because that helps me to get those things through and if I show my passion for something, often I can get things fixed. WTF, it's sad truth, better know than what you know. But it's not 100%. Who you know gets your foot in the door. Being able to show that you have the capability to learn things if the team is willing to teach is more about what you know and showing your past success, and that you can replicate it in the future. It's a combination of things. But what I will say is, those people who you take care to know, to whether it's mentor or assist or just show that you have a great work ethic, them speaking highly about you when they move to other places, or just being the one to give you that call and be like, hey man, I haven't caught up with you in a while. Listen, my company's hiring and you might be interested in this. That I've found more interesting jobs, or helped people get interesting jobs, through basically networking and understanding the people that, by working with them, how good they are. Let me give you one more story. And I've gone way long on my stream tonight, but Dr. Black's not up yet. He's a little late, so we can do this for fun. And we miss some streams. My lady will understand. Let me give you an example. A gentleman named Dan that I worked with for a little while. I did this really short contract working for Oculus for a bit. This is his first ever test role. But man, this guy was smart. Very smart and very good. He was what I consider a natural at that career profession. And he basically needed no supervision. He would just handle stuff. And very rarely he would come to me and ask me questions for mentorship. Because at that point I already had almost a decade of experience in that industry. And whenever he did ask questions, they were smart, right? It's just those things where it's like, this guy is going to be amazing. So when I worked at Intel for a while, I checked in with him regularly because he had moved on to a different company. Funny enough, the company that I currently work for, but on a different project. And I reached out to him. I was like, hey, dude, are you still working, doing this job? And what are they paying you? It was like, yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm having fun and I'm making this much. But, me and my wife, I just got married. We're going to have a baby here soon. I kind of need to make more money. Like, cool. I have openings at my job. I know that you'll ace it no matter what because you're good. Let's get you an interview. Get him interviewed. My bosses like him. They have a lot of faith in me. It's like, okay, we'll send him an offer. Now, the company he currently works for, he's still there. They made him a counter offer. that he couldn't refuse. And now, through that period of time, at first I basically doubled his pay. And then, now he's proven himself so well that he acts as the liaison between the U.S. side of our company and an entire organization of work that happens out in Madagascar. So he has this higher level managerial role purely because that first role that he got at that company, I was his main reference. And I spoke incredibly highly of him because I'd seen his work. And then when I tried to take him away, they panicked because he's so good. And they basically just bumped him up into a managerial role and begged him to stay. And now he's phenomenal. And he's doing great. But it starts with that one person who goes, this guy's good. If I ever have an opening somewhere else, I'm trying to get this guy because he's that good. And it's all about the people. And sometimes you don't even realize it sometimes. But when you care about people, it matters. Naidu, I'm surprised you didn't get a counteroffer. How do I put this? The difference in compensation I'm receiving is just more than they could realistically match. Because the biggest thing for me, and I'll tell you this, I get called by recruiters all the time. When you're in the tech field, you get called by headhunters and recruiters all the time. And there were several jobs that would have offered me a reasonable increase in pay. But I didn't take any of them because most of them still would require me to work on site or work for something that wasn't interesting to me. And I love my project. But it's a combination of things in this new role that I was offered that basically made me go, I can't pass this up. I would be stupid to pass this up. So it's one of those things where it's a great jump in pay. But granted, you got to keep in mind, right? I'm a single income household. I am the income in my entire home. So, I've got my lady and brother-in-law James and the pups and all that stuff. They're all under me right now. So, yeah, it's not like I have tons of free money all of a sudden. But does that mean you can buy 2 gallons of water? I topped the flex off. Look at this. Look at this water line. I topped this off last week, you jerk. Anyway, the end lesson here, other than this, is just when you work with people, care about them. Talk to them. Come to understand them. Let them understand you. Let them have a reason to be not only your friend, but your champion. Because in the end, those are the people who will think of you when they move on. And if they think there's a way to give you something better, they will call you. They will get in touch with you. Your next best job is sitting right beside you. That is my advice for you folks who are younger or my age. For you retired folks, ignore me. You don't have to work no more. Here we go, Stan. I'm glad I used this for something important. Oh, Lord. Rico, you're the best. And I do time for a saltwater aquarium series with all that money. No, I won't be doing salt anytime soon. I've got a lot of things that I need to get done that are better for several other things. I've got some non-fish related stuff I got to take care of. There's a few things I got to make sure are taken care of in the house when it comes to some maintenance and stuff, and all those responsible adult things when you're a homeowner. But eventually, my goal is to do some cool fish stuff here soon. Kingfishers Catch, will you be watching Fury vs. Whites? I can't remember what weekend. 2 weeks from now? Ooh, that might be tough. That might be tough because I have 2 weeks. I mean, that's... You're talking about, like, the weekend of the 30th? Is it on the 30th? That might be tough, because I know I have plans on the 30th, which is bad. Bad news, Bears. And I'll basically be out all day. It depends. If I get in touch with... if my plans change slightly and I get in touch with Cousin Henry, because he's really big into boxing, we might watch it. Lork and Tom Wing, do you have a Patreon? I do have a Patreon, but honestly, like, I would say if you can be a YouTube member, just because it's the same, but you get the benefits internal to YouTube, like all the badges and all that kind of stuff. I kind of been slowly, like, shutting my Patreon down, just because I have not had the time for a while. Hopefully I'll have better time soon and be able to do more member-oriented content, which also goes on Patreon too, but all that stuff. I can't because of my country, yeah. So I do have a Patreon. I don't know. I'll link it at some point. You can find it in, like, the description of all my videos. There's a link to my Patreon. I'll do it there. I'm too lazy to do it right now. And plus, I'm way over time. I need to go, like, have dinner and spend some time with my lady before I get screamed at. Gang. April 23rd. Oh, it's even worse. It's even worse. That's the day after my last day at work. I'm going to be like a zombie that day. We'll see. I might. Anyway, guys, we'll be back next week. We'll talk more stuff, have a new topic, all those fantastic things. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, stay awesome. Dr. Back will be starting his stream in like 30 minutes, so if you want to keep rolling in the fish content, check that out. Thank you so much for being here, gang. Have a fantastic night.